Hello, and welcome again to the Leopard Reviews. I'm Peter Lepard, and today I'm going to be talking about The Artist. This film's been out for a little while, so I'm a little bit behind with my reviews. As you may have noticed, I promised I would put up a preview of 2012, and I haven't done that. Excuse me, and it doesn't look like I actually will be able to either, so sorry about that. But I mean, there are a lot of films in 2012 which are worth looking out for. Just to mention a few, we've got The Hobbit, we've got Dark Knight Rises, we've got Prometheus, yes, but they are all to come. And hopefully I'll be reviewing at least a few of those when I get the time. Right, but yes, I just got back from seeing The Artist, actually for the second time, which was really good because it gave me a chance to sort of rethink some of my thoughts. And yeah, okay, so let's dive in. First off, I really enjoyed the film. There is so much which, as a fan of black and white film and silent cinema, I enjoyed on kind of a nerdy, geeky level. But there's also so much to enjoy on so many other levels, you know, like cinematography and sound. I know it seems strange to talk about sound in a silent film, but I'll come back to that. But yeah, there's so many little bits and pieces, so many clever scenes that just harken back to those days of classic cinema that it becomes really engaging. And you know, I'm sitting in the cinema. Obviously, the cinema is very quiet because there's not much noise, and you can, you know, it's nice to hear people laughing and kind of being involved in the film as it goes along. Okay, so I want to talk about the plot. The story revolves around an actor who's played by the French actor Jean Dujardin, who I really like. I've seen him in a couple of other films, and yeah, he's a really good actor. And basically his decline from being a major Hollywood silent movie star to a kind of man who ends up broken and alone. That might sound a little bit depressing, but you know, the film has so many moments of tenderness and humour that it never feels like it's kind of a film that's bringing you down in any way. And you know, it's sort of like there are lots of, like I said before, lots of little scenes that have their own kind of theme to them. You know, this is going to be a comic theme, this is kind of going to be a maybe more dramatic scene, that kind of thing. And in fact, that moves me on to one of the other things that I love about this film, and that's how concise it is. It's not a terribly long film. I don't think actual minute running time, but there are very few moments that feel unnecessary or feel padded. And you know, every scene plays out in a way that adds to the plot in some way or another. You know, it's even if it's a comic scene, there'll sort of be a reason for it. And I'm thinking a lot of the scenes with the dog. You know, he has a lot of the kind of comic scenes, and lots of things with the dog kind of reference other parts of the film when you look back, and you know, it becomes a comic element. And I think that really plays well. Yes, and another thing about it, well, the fact that it is black and white and silent, you could easily argue, and I'm sure that there are some people who would argue this, that that's just somebody saying, right, okay, well, let's put a silent black and white movie in cinemas because why not? You know, people will go and see that because it's something new and quirky. I mean, ironically, obviously, because it's very old, a very old technique and style, but you could argue that it was merely style over substance, and that was the only reason that it was in black and white and silent. But that is entirely not the case here. In fact, the fact that it is black and white and silent is entirely part of the plot. And without it, so many elements wouldn't make any sense. You know, it's a film about how, as the plot moves along, our characters are introduced to this burgeoning, you know, new technology of sound in cinema, and as that happens, sort of sound kind of creeps into the film in places, and it becomes about this kind of paranoia that the main character George, the actor, has about, you know, the fact that he's part of another age and that people aren't going to want to hear him saying anything because, you know, it's not relevant anymore. And I just think that you know, saying that it's stylistically amazing, which it is the only point of this film, is complete nonsense. But anyway, I'll move on. Okay, so yes, it's what the film is really about. Well, the whole sort of key theme is change and dealing with new ideas that may not necessarily suit us, and it kind of addresses this idea of change through the main character George's life. In it, it's within his professional life as an actor in cinemas with this changing move towards sound, and within his personal life, he sort of becomes increasingly distant from his wife, and they sort of take troubled turns and that kind of thing. And it's very much about how he kind of chooses to deal with that. He ends up, going right to the very bottom, and then people around him kind of help building back up. And I think that's a lot of what it's about. And yeah, I think I want to sort of move this swiftly along. But another thing I really enjoyed is how much attention and research they must have paid when they made this film. I know it's going to sound pretty geeky, but the film looks just the way that silent films did. And, the acting and the makeup and the sets, it's all, so well recreated, but not in a way that seems showy or demanding of attention. It's in a way that you barely notice it, really. It doesn't interfere with the story, and it's just, you just accept it, and that's exactly as it should be. The sound, okay, which I said I would come to later. The musical score fits so perfectly with the sounds of 20th cinema, crossing many various genres of music and referencing just that kind of classic sound of cinemas of the past. You could almost imagine seeing this film with a live musical accompaniment. In fact, I think that would be really interesting to see it done that way. And you get all the kind of cue cards of what they're saying and stuff coming up, and it's brilliantly done. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up this review now. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that I really enjoyed this film. And I have heard that it's received many awards already, and looks set to do well at the Oscars, which I'm really glad about. I hope it does do well, because quite frankly, it deserves to do well. It's not something that necessarily someone would say, yes, okay, that's a film for the Oscars. In some ways, I think I can picture someone sort of coming in and trying to pitch this film and saying, right, we want to make a black and white film, and it's going to be silent. And, most of the actors in it aren't going to be that well known to sort of Western audiences, and they're going to go, what? That's insane, that's madness. But the fact that it is done so well is, I think a good sign, and I hope it does do well at the Oscars. But yeah, that's my review of The Artist. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed watching the film twice. And yes, good evening.